Welcome everybody to your introduction to Lab 5, which is on Adobe Audition. We're going to show you some ins and outs of Adobe Audition today, and also we're going to produce a commercial inside of Adobe, and we're going to mix it down into an MP3 and get it ready to play. So let's go ahead and take a look at our lab sheet that we have here and some instructions. And sorry for the weird angle here. I've got one camera that we'll have on the monitor of the Adobe computer, and then one camera that you'll have on me so you get to see me intermittently throughout the lab demonstration. So let's take a look at our sheet here. What we've got, the first thing you want to do is make sure that the Adobe computer is booted up if it's not already. And you're going to find a couple different logins there. There's an admin, and then there's one that's not in the admin. You choose the one that's not an admin in the event that you need to boot the computer up. Chances are it's going to be booted up every time you come in the room, but just in the event that it might not be, that's how it's done. Then what we want to do is open Adobe Audition here as we get our lab started. So let me go ahead and just open this up. You see down here in the bottom, there's an Adobe Audition icon. There's also an Adobe Audition icon right here on the screen as well. And so you could click on either one of these. This takes a double click. If I choose the one on the bottom toolbar, I can just click that once, and it's going to open up Adobe Audition. So we'll wait for that to open up. And then we also need to turn on the source on our board. We need to think about what we're going to need for our board here. And you're only going to need two different channels on your board for this lab. One is your microphone, and number two is the Adobe Audition source. So we want to make sure that both of those are ready. And so I've got the Adobe Audition source on the board that's already on, and it's up so we can hear things to be able to listen to in the event that we need to, which we will. Then make sure that everything is thoroughly proofread. Every copy that you have, every piece of production that you're going to use, always make sure you proofread your copy. Looking at it for inflection, looking at it for meaning, looking at it to know just exactly what it is that you're reading. So always make sure you proofread things and read through them more than once. And so now what we want to do, let's go back to the Adobe computer here. In Adobe, you can see we've kind of got a pretty blank screen that's not really showing us much of anything. We're going to click on multi-track mode here. And so it's right here at the top. It says multi-track. I'm going to click on that, and then it opens up a window that wants me to save it. This is saving your session that you're creating in Adobe Audition. And I'm going to show you where to save it here in just a minute. But for now, let's go ahead and just call this one Lab 5. I'm going to call this one Lab 5 Demonstration. And underneath of that, you can see the folder location. So where do you want to save this file that you're going to be working with? So then we have to browse, and we're going to go to MediaNet and save it inside of your folder. So we go ahead and click on Browse, and sometimes you got to give this a minute to register everything and be able to read it all. Sometimes it kind of jumps around on you, so give it a couple of seconds. And you're going to go down to a folder here that is called Start 2016. Which is already open, but in the event that it's not, you can go ahead and click this little icon that's off to the left here, Start 2016, and you can see that everybody's got a folder here with their last name on it, including my folder. And so you just want to click once on the folder that you want it to go into. And so then I'm going to go ahead, I've clicked on that folder, and I'm going to hit OK here. So that's where I want it to go. And now we can take a look here. It says template. You never want to change the template. It should always say none. Underneath of that, we can see sample rate and bit depth. If you remember that conversation that we had about sample rate and bit depth, we're recording at 44.1 for a sample rate with a bit depth of 16. As you recall, that is CD quality audio or digital audio that we're going to be working with. So we never want to change that. However, this is a drop-down menu that allows you to go up to 192,000 for your sample rate instead of the 44,100 that we're going to use for now. And then, of course, here's the bit depth. That has a drop-down menu as well, and we always want to make sure that that's at 16. So we're recording at CD quality sound. Underneath of that, your master, do you want that to be in stereo or mono? Well, obviously we want that to be in stereo. There is a 5.1 option, but we're not going to be listening to our labs in full surround, so we're just going to choose stereo for now. So now you can hit OK here. We've got our name, our session name. We've designated our file location of where it's going to be saved, and everything else looks pretty good. So we're going to hit OK. And then your Multitrack Editor is going to open up. So let me give you just a few things that we're looking at here. This box is where we're going to store media that we import, and we're going to import a song here in just a little bit. And then these are your individual tracks here. And you can have up to 128 different tracks inside of Adobe Audition. We're just going to be using 2 today, a very simple, basic level lab that we're going to be using. Inside of here, you have an M, which is mono, S, which is solo, and R, which is arm for record. And so anytime you want to record something onto a track, you have to push this, and it lights up red. And then if I were to talk into my mic here, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm getting a level. And so now we want to make sure that we're setting our level inside Adobe Audition. So again, if you've got it up too hot, it's going to be, do you see how it got those little red marks up here at the top? That meant that it was too loud. So we want to make sure that it's not too loud, and to get rid of those red marks, you simply just click on those and they'll go away, and it will let you know if you get warm or hot at all for the rest of your levels that you're going to be putting in there. So that's just a little bit of basic here, what we got. We're in default stereo input right now, and then also this is called track 1. Now one of the things that you can do for this, if you want to, is that you can change the name. When you click on it, it allows you to change the name on it. So maybe I wanted this to be called Voice, which is what we're going to do here. And so I can call this Voice. And I know that my second track then, if I want to call that, I can click on track 2, and I'm going to call that Music. It's just kind of for your reference so you know what's going to be stored on those tracks. And again, it's all saved in this session. When you open up a new session, it's going to show track 1, track 2, everything is going to be reset. So it's nothing too much to worry about. And then up here we have a few different tools. We've got your time selection tool, we've got a slip tool, a razor blade tool or your cut tool, and then also your move tool. The ones that we're going to use the most are the time selection tool and then also your razor blade tool in the event that we want to cut something out of a piece of audio. So that's kind of a basic once over here of what we're doing just inside of these components. Now down here at the bottom, here's my timer. And so I know where I'm at. Notice that when I click around, my time changes at the bottom, and that's measured in seconds. And so now I'm at 5.683 seconds, I'm at 13 seconds, I'm at 22 seconds. If I wanted to zoom out, I could go down here and zoom out for my time. And I could make it as long as I wanted to. And so then I can use this up here to scan all the way to the end if I wanted to. But we're going to stay back here at the beginning for now. And so that's a little bit about that zoom. There's also another zoom down here, which is zoom in amplitude. So that's going to make each track bigger. So if I click it zoom in, it's going to make that track bigger. If I zoom out, it's going to make it smaller. And so just kind of make those adjustments as you need to when you log into Adobe Audition. Also down here at the bottom, this is called a transport box, and the record button that's down here that you might not be able to see is going to come in handy here in just a little bit when we go to record our voice. And then a little bit farther off to the left, you see a time here, and that's giving you the time, the same thing as what's right down here. It's giving you the time that's there. So that's kind of a basic once over what we're looking at here. Let's go ahead and go back to our lab to see what it is that we need to do. And so now that we're in multi-track mode, it's going to prompt us to save the session. We did that. We saved it into our folder. You're going to call that Lab 5. And we want to put track 1 into record ready mode. And so that means that we want to arm it for recording. So there's an R right here. We're going to go ahead and arm it for recording. And my microphone's already on. And so that means that I need to put my headphones on because I'm actually going to read the commercial that we're going to be doing today. And then we're going to import the music afterwards. We've already got a pre-selected song that we're going to use for this lab. And so you don't have to worry about finding one or finding the right fit. The song has already been located for you for this specific lab, so it makes it a little bit easier. So let's go back to our screen here, and we're going to record the session here on track 1. We're going to put our announcer voice there. And so we've got our announcer mic is on. We've already set our level, which is what we need to do next. You can see the level moving as I'm talking up there in Adobe Audition. So now we're going to record the script onto track 1, and it says press record in the transport box at the bottom. Now the transport box at the bottom is right down here. And so now that I've armed it for record, you can see, you might be able to see that now. It's a red button down here. And so that's what we're going to push to record. And then when we're finished, there's going to be a stop button that we can stop the recording down here. But again, that's called the transport box. So let me go ahead and hit the record button. And I'm going to start things recording. You can see that it's automatically giving me a level on here, and it's as I'm talking, it's registering my level and everything that's happening there. If I wanted to zoom out a little bit for time, I can do that and make it a little bit smaller so it's not quite so cumbersome, I guess. So let's go ahead and read our script. Again, this is a 30-second commercial. I'm sure you've been hearing a lot lately of going green, but what does that really mean? It means being responsible with what you do with your waste to protect this great planet. From aluminum cans to plastic bottles, even glass and motor oil, recycling can do a lot for our environment. You might even make a little money in the process. So do your part and make a difference. You'll be happy you did. This announcement is a public service of KHWK Hawk TV. And so then I can go ahead and turn my microphone off, and I can take my headphones off and set those to the side. And now I can go ahead and stop my recording. So again, down here in the transport box, I'm going to hit the stop button. And so now you see this turns blue here. I'm going to the next thing you need to do is make sure that you disarm the recording on here. And so it says turn record ready off, click track 1, trim the ends, and make the needed edits. So I'm going to go ahead and click record ready and turn that off. And so now we need to be able to find that the point where I started talking because I was talking a little bit ahead of time before we actually started. But you can see a little gap here, so chances are that's where I started talking. So if you hit the space bar, you have your Adobe pot up on your board. And if you hit the space bar on the keyboard for the Adobe computer, it'll start playing and it will also stop it for you as well. So let me hit the space bar. I'm sure you've been hearing a lot lately of going green, but what does that really mean? Okay, so it sounds like everything is in there and it's ready. And so that's the part that we need to have. And so all this other stuff we need to get rid of. Now when we're working in NextGen, we highlight everything and delete it, right? But inside Adobe Audition, we're not going to do that. We can actually just shorten it up. And so I'm going to go ahead and go back here to the beginning. And I don't know if you can see that or not. It shows up a little red box on the end. And so if you click on that and hold it down, I'm using my left mouse button to hold that down and drag it. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, and then I'm going to take it back here to the left. And I can see right here where my commercial ended. And so then I'm going to do the same thing with the end of the track. I'm going to go to the end here and I'm going to trim it back down. And I can actually see down here at the bottom that that's 29 seconds. So that's right on. So let's go back and listen to it for quality assurance here. I'm sure you've been hearing a lot lately of going green, but what does that really mean? It means being responsible with what you do with your waste to protect this great planet. From aluminum cans to plastic bottles, even glass and motor oil. Okay, so everything is in there, and the voice is all locked in and ready to go. Again, if I click on the back side of it, it shows me that I'm at 29 seconds here at the end. There's this little marker here, and actually, this is called a scrubber. You can move it around if you want to. It sounds kind of weird, but and then if you move it all the way to the end, I can see that I'm at just about 29 seconds there at the end, which is great. This is a 30-second spot. We don't want the voice to be 30 seconds exactly. You want it to be just a little bit under so we can play with the music a little bit at the end and be able to bring it down. So the voice is already done. Let's go ahead and go to our lab sheet and take a look and see what's next here. It says import the music bed from MediaNet. We're on number 8, and so we need to go to File, Import, MediaNet Broadcasting, Radio Labs. There's a Lab 5 source. And so there's a couple of different ways to do that, but let me show you the easy way to get to it. Up here, there is a folder, and if you hold your mouse over it, it says Import File. And so I'm going to click on this, and it's going to open a window, and I want to go to MediaNet to be able to find that. So I'm going to click on Desktop, or MediaNet might show up here, but let me just go to Desktop. And I'm going to find the MediaNet icon, double click on that, go to Broadcasting, go down to the Radiolabs folder, and I'm going to go to the Lab 5 source. I'm going to click once on it and open. Now if I double clicked on it, it would do the same exact thing. It would bring that in. So here's the music that we just brought in. It's called At Calvary, right there. And what it tells us to do on our sheet here is to insert At Calvary into track 2. And so we can go ahead and just drop this in now. And so we've already imported it, and we're ready to drop it into the file. So we're going to drop that into track 2. There it is. And then we want to take that and align it back to the left. Now do note that this is a longer file. In fact, this is a 2-minute and 27-second song, but we're only looking for a 30-second commercial. And so we want to make sure that we trim things up a little bit. So let me just kind of show you how to be able to maneuver in here. We're at the end of our voice there. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. I'm going to zoom in for time. And at the top here, you can actually mark 30. And so I'm going to go ahead and just mark where that 30 is at. Now I'm going to go up here to my razor blade tool. And I'm going to click on the razor blade tool. And I'm going to go right over that mark that I have there at 30 seconds. And I'm going to just click once, and it deletes it. Okay, so now I'm going to go back up and use my time selection tool. And I can go ahead and I can click on this second one that I don't need, hit the delete key on my keyboard, and it goes away. So now I've got a music bed that's exactly 30 seconds long. Let me go ahead and back it up just to make sure. Okay, there it is, 30.07. That's pretty good. Now, in the event that you cut too much off or you didn't get enough, all you have to do is just adjust this. You can move it in, you can slide this out, you can do whatever you need to do. So now we have our voice here. Let me go ahead and zoom back out. There we go. So we can kind of see the scope of things. We've got our voice up here in the first track. We've got our music down here in the second track. So what it's telling us to do next is adjust the volume of the music bed by using the yellow band system. We want the music to fade up and out at 30 seconds. And so if we were to play this back from the beginning, let me just put my cursor back here at the beginning and play this. I've been hearing a lot lately of Going Green. You can hear the music is way louder than the voice is. And so I'm going to click on my music track and I'm going to bring this down. There's a rubber band system here, and if I just click once on that and I hold it down with my left mouse key, I'm going to bring that down a little bit lower than halfway and see how that sounds. It means being responsible with what you do with your waste. Okay, so that was still a little bit too loud, so I'm going to bring that down a little bit more. There we go. It means being responsible with what you do with your waste to protect this great planet. Okay, perfect. So that sounds pretty good. The mix sounds really good. But what we needed to do is to fade up and out at 30 seconds. So I'm going to click here at the end of my voice and I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in pretty tightly here so I can see that my voice ends right here and I've got a little bit of music bed left to go. So now what you can do, if you click on this and don't hold it down, just click, it's going to put little keytones on this rubber band system. And so I'm going to put a ketone here, and then I'm also going to put another ketone out here. Because what I want it to do at this point, and this is totally a rubber band, I can do whatever I want with this. I want the music, when I'm done talking, to fade up. I'm going to bring it up about that far, and then at 30 seconds I need it to fade out. And so I'm going to put another ketone here, and I'm going to take this one here and put another one at the end, and I'm just going to bring that rubber band all the way down at 30 seconds. So let's hear how that sounds at the end. KHWK Hawk TV. And so what it actually did was that it played it for us. It faded up and it faded out. Now if you think the music is too loud, grab that ketone and just bring that down a little bit. And so I'm going to grab this other one here and bring that down as well. This rubber band system is incredible, and you can do whatever you want. If I wanted to put another one in the middle and make it louder here or softer here, have little dips in the audio, the rubber band system is just fantastic. So that's the way that it works. So let's go ahead and go back to the beginning and listen to it to make sure everything sounds good. Let me zoom out here so we can see everything in one window. I'm going to click back at the beginning, and actually I'm going to use my scrubber to go all the way back and hear how it sounds from the beginning. I'm sure you've been hearing a lot lately of going green, but what does that really mean? It means being responsible with what you do with your waste to protect this great planet. From aluminum cans
So I'm listening
to
for audio
bottles,
quality at this
even
point,
glass
listening
and
to how
motor
my
oil.
mix sounds.
Recycling can do a lot for our environment. You might even make a little money in the process. So do your part and make a difference. You'll be happy you did. This announcement is a public service of KHWK Hawk TV. Okay, and so at that point, as long as everything sounds good to you, then your adjustments are done. If you still feel that the music is too loud, then you can go ahead and change that rubber band system there and make the music lower if you need to, or if your music is not loud enough during your commercial, again, you can adjust that volume there if you need to. So what we want to do next, let's go ahead and take a look at our lab sheet, what we need to do. It says to, and we did, we went to number 12, we listened to the entire file to assure quality. Now we want to mix it down to our MediaNet folder. And before we do that though, I want to show you one thing real quick here inside Adobe Audition. It's only a one click to go to wherever you want to within your sound files. In NextGen, remember we had to double click, and so Adobe is a single click. If I was to double click, it opens up the single track or the waveform window. And what I can do inside of this window is I can basically delete things out. So if I wanted this section to go away, I could hit the delete key there and it would actually change that sound file and get rid of that. Now in the event that you double click and it opens up the waveform window, don't panic. Go back over here to the top and click on Multitrack, and it's going to take you back to the Multitrack window. Pretty simple. So just kind of a word of note here, that seems to be something that a lot of students encounter when they're working with Adobe Audition. They happen to double click there because they're used to doing it in NextGen. All of a sudden it opens up the waveform view. So that's how you get out of that in the event that you need to. So again, let's go ahead and mix down to our MediaNet folder, and again, that's where we're going to be going. That's the destination file, is our MediaNet folder. And so it says go to File, Export, Multitrack Mixdown Entire Session. So we're going to go to File, Export, Multitrack Mixdown, Entire Session. And so now it says, okay, where do you want to mix this down to? My file name is Lab 5 Demonstration. And so here's my location, and it's also telling me down here that I'm saving it as an MP3. It's at 44.1. It's also, we need to tell it where we want to save it. So look at your location here. And again, we have to browse. If you just hit OK and go, it's going to save it into somebody else's folder someplace else. You have to tell it where you want it to go, otherwise it's going to be lost in space somewhere, and you'll just have to mix it down again, and it's going to wreak a lot of havoc for you. So hit Browse, and we need to go to your folder. So we need to go back to MediaNet, and so let's go back to Broadcasting. We need to go back to our Start 2016 folder. So we're going to double click on Start 2016. We're going to go inside of our folder, and now there's a folder that's been made. You can see here it says Lab 5 Demonstration. I'm going to double click there, and then down here we've called this Lab 5 Demonstration, and then it says Mixdown. Yours should say Lab 5 Mixdown. If you're practicing, you probably called it Lab 5 Practice. So what we want to do now is hit Save, and so that tells it where you want it to go. Where's the destination? So now all that's left is for us to hit the OK button down here at the bottom. And I hit OK, and it's over with. It's completely mixed everything down, and it's inside of our folder. Now, one of the things that you want to make sure that we do here, and I didn't list it on the lab sheet, is to minimize and go back and double check that you have that file saved in your MediaNet folder. We can come back to Adobe Audition here in just a second. So let's go to MediaNet. We're going to go to Broadcasting and go into your folder. Start 2016, you're going to go into your folder, not mine. Lab 5 demonstration, there it is. Okay, and so here's our mix down. I'm going to double click on this just to make sure that I got what I intended to get. I'm sure you've been hearing a lot lately of going green. Okay, so it's there. So we know that we mixed it down, it's in your folder, it's exactly where it's supposed to go, and everything is good. So we're going to open this back up again, and looks like everything is okay. We're finished. Our commercial was exactly 30 seconds, which is exactly what we were after. So now, if we look at number 14, we need to save it. So we're going to click File and Save. So we're going to go to File and go down here to Save. And that's saving your session. So the event that you wanted to go back into your session, that's what's, you can do that. You can open it back up on this computer, and it's going to open back up exactly the way that you left it. It also will allow you to open Adobe Audition in one of our radio studios, and then you can actually go back to one of the other radio studios, open it up, and it's going to open exactly the way that you left it in the other studio that you were just working in. It's pretty cool to be able to have everything tied together like that. As long as we're saving it on MediaNet and all the other computers have that program on it, you're going to be able to open it up. So we saved it, and then we can go ahead and click on the X here. And sometimes when you click on the X, it will ask you, do you want to save this? Always say yes. In fact, one of the buttons that you're going to find there, it says yes to all. If you hit yes to all, it's going to save everything, and then it's going to go ahead and close the program down, which is what you want. So as we look on here, we're also looking for a good sounding mix. We're looking for no dead air. Were your headphones on when you were voicing the commercial, which in my case it was, so I guess I get a star there. Consistent 80 to 100% level, and so everything, if you were recording it into Adobe, was at 80 to 100%. Another way to monitor that, when you're playing it back, is at 80 to 100% on your board. On the console is at 80 to 100%. That's going to be a way for you to be able to tell that. And then when you're finished, is your board cleared, everything's turned off, you've got Adobe closed, and everything is closed on that computer, and you've cleaned up the studio properly. So that's just a basic once-over of Lab 5 and intro level to Adobe Audition, something simple to mix. We're going to get more in depth as the semester goes on. We'll be adding some sound effects. We'll show you some audio processing next week to show you how to manipulate your voice a little bit and be able to change it and have some fun with it. Actually, we're going to show you that later on this week too. So get ready to have some fun with that. But for now, we want you to focus on the basics and understand mixing, basic level mixing in Adobe Audition. Some radio stations have Adobe Audition in their production rooms. And so this is an application that you would be using on a daily basis. If you were going to have a commercial that simply had voice and music, this is exactly what you would do in a radio production situation at any radio station. So again, thanks for watching. Hopefully this has helped you. And again, as always, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask.